What's big and white and can't climb trees? A fridge. Today, I'm going to recap a 2003 action crime film called S.W.A.T. Within the bustling city of Los Angeles, several law enforcement officers find themselves engaged in an intense firefight against a quartet of bank robbers in Lincoln Heights. Two of these criminals are inside the bank, keeping a watchful eye over the hostages. The remaining pair are outside, battling the police using automatic weapons and wearing heavy body armor, giving them a significant advantage over the policemen with their standard sidearms. A ray of hope appears as a SWAT team comes on scene. Officers named Jim and Brian, along with two others, descend from a helicopter onto the bank's rooftop. From there, they bore through to the storeroom, making their way to the main lobby area stealthily using a high-tech camera. Some SWAT sharpshooters find vantage points atop a nearby building, while another team readies to advance from the street level. In the heat of the situation, one of the external robbers attempts a speedy exit in a car, but he's promptly neutralized by a sniper's shot. His accomplice continues the fight, but is soon apprehended by the advancing team. The duo inside the bank senses the tide turning and begin to feel the pressure. A secure line of communication is established for a SWAT negotiator to potentially secure the hostage's release. As this unfolds, Lieutenant Velasquez communicates with his team inside, urging patience. However, Brian acts impulsively, diving into the storeroom. With little option, Jim tails him. Brian discreetly positions himself at the rear of the lobby, eyeing the robbers. Despite Velasquez's attempts to reach him, Brian remains unresponsive. Tensions rise, and one robber becomes increasingly erratic, seizing a female hostage, weapon drawn. Reacting instinctively, Brian fires, hitting the robber through the woman's shoulder, effectively neutralizing him but injuring her as well. Jim dispatches the final criminal. As the dust settles, he rushes to the injured woman's aid, calling for medical assistance. Seeing her condition, Brian expresses concern, only for Jim to reproach him for his rash actions. Back at the police station, Captain Fuller is livid. Both Jim and Brian are on the receiving end of his wrath, particularly with the looming threat of a lawsuit from the injured woman. He strips them of their SWAT roles. However, Velasquez intercedes, suggesting they remain on the squad in the hopes of eventual redemption. Fuller concedes but assigns them to cage duty, a lowly task of handling equipment for fellow officers. Feeling slighted, Brian confronts Fuller, further complicating matters, and departs in a huff. Fuller then tempts Jim with an immediate return to the SWAT team, but only if he's willing to report Brian for his recklessness. Brian, in the midst of his decision to resign, starts packing his belongings. This triggers a revelation from Jim, who admits his alignment with Fuller's opinion regarding Brian's recklessness. This acknowledgement sparks a heated exchange between the two, as Jim is resolute in his decision to stay. The confrontation intensifies when Brian suspects Jim of betraying him. In his anger, Brian violently shatters a mirror with his head and departs abruptly. Fast forward half a year, Jim remains steadfast in his training routines during his personal time. However, his professional life sees him relegated to the gun cage, attending to mundane tasks for fellow officers. In a turn of events, Sergeant Hondo drops by the station and entrusts Jim with the task of repairing his modified M4 rifle. Jim, observing the custom modifications, is genuinely impressed. Subsequently, Hondo has a discussion with Velasquez about numerous disparaging articles taking aim at the LAPD. This negative press prompts the chief to mandate a department overhaul. Velasquez envisions Hondo spearheading a revamped SWAT team and suggests integrating two officers, TJ and Michael, from his unit. Hondo agrees, with the intention to further recruit 3 potential members, though the final decision lies with Fuller. Post his task with Hondo's rifle, Jim returns home only to discover his girlfriend in the midst of moving out. She emphasizes their dwindling connection, attributing the rift to Jim's demotion from SWAT. Although she attempts a parting kiss, Jim, in his emotional turmoil, declines. The subsequent workday unveils a silver lining. While relegated to the gun cage, Jim has engineered an innovative tool which he envisions patenting. Dubbed the key to the city, This contraption, comprising a massive hook and chain, is designed to dismantle walls or barricades, potentially resolving volatile situations. As Jim is briefing his cage colleague about the innovation, Hondo walks in, expressing genuine admiration for Jim's concept. Retrieving his rifle, Hondo is notably pleased with the enhancements Jim incorporated. Later, a scene unfolds at the firing range. Hondo and some officers engage in target practice. TJ displays impeccable shooting skills, surpassing even Hondo. However, Hondo confidently wagers $200, betting on Jim's potential to outdo TJ. The ensuing face-off sees Jim emerging triumphant, leaving most astonished, bearing Hondo. In a parallel scenario, Alex, a notorious French mobster, lands in Los Angeles. Upon arrival, his knife is almost confiscated by guards. Defending its significance as a familial heirloom, he retains it. His entourage welcomes him, equipping him with a forged passport. Alex proceeds to a local eatery, ostensibly surprising his uncle for his birthday, masking his ulterior motives. While the facade of the meeting between Alex and his uncle appeared amicable, Alex's true intention was to confront his uncle, whom he knew had been embezzling from the family's wealth. After dining together, Alex swiftly ends his uncle's life, using the knife he had managed to retain earlier. Exiting the restaurant, Alex takes off in his uncle's car. However, he's shortly flagged down by the police due to a malfunctioning taillight. Given that the car is registered under his uncle's name, who has an existing arrest warrant, the police detain Alex for interrogation and to verify his identity. Despite Alex's attempts to bribe his way out, he finds himself confined to a holding cell. Meanwhile, Hondo enlists Jim to accompany him for the day, primarily to scout for potential SWAT team members. Their first prospect, Officer Deke, is encountered during a foot chase with the suspect. Hondo and Jim spontaneously join the chase, and after a few city blocks, they successfully apprehend the suspect. This intervention doesn't sit well with Deke, who prefers working solo. Nevertheless, his frustration subsides when Hondo extends an invitation to be part of the SWAT team. The duo then proceed to evaluate another potential recruit, but Hondo quickly dismisses him. The candidate's vegetarianism, overt politeness, and rigid adherence to rules make him an incompatible fit for Hondo's squad. The next lead directs them to a Metro officer named Chris. Notably, Chris has repeatedly cleared the requirements for SWAT, but has consistently faced rejection. These rejections, ostensibly, stem from numerous complaints lodged against Chris by detainees. Arriving at a local emergency room, they find Chris's partner watching over a battered suspect, the result of an altercation with Chris. To Hondo's surprise, he learns that Chris is an abbreviation for Christina. Hondo surmises that her repeated omissions from SWAT and the rationale of misconduct complaints might have been a prejudiced response to her gender, especially since Christina shares that many of the allegations against her came from male criminals who couldn't accept being subdued by a woman. Impressed by her, Hondo instantly offers her a slot in his team. Upon returning to their base, Jim's curiosity gets the better of him. He confronts Hondo, inquiring about his ulterior motive for having him on this recruitment journey. Hondo retorts by asking Jim if he desires to be part of the SWAT team. Foreseeing Fuller's disapproval, Jim hesitates. Yet when Hondo probes whether Jim had betrayed Brian, and Jim denies doing so, Hondo rewards his loyalty by offering him the final position on the SWAT team. During a subsequent team assembly, Fuller predictably expresses his reservations about Chris and Jim's inclusion. Hondo, however, remains unyielding in his stance. Attempting to reach a middle ground, Fuller proposes a conditional offer. He will consent to the team's composition provided they successfully navigate the SWAT preliminary tests. If they fall short, Chris will revert to her previous responsibilities, while both Jim and Hondo will face removal from duty. With unwavering confidence in his newly formed squad, Hondo accepts the challenge. The intensive training phase commences, allowing team members to familiarize themselves with each other. A revelation emerges that Jim's former girlfriend is Michael's sibling. Owing to some misconceptions, Michael holds a grudge against Jim, resulting in tensions that almost culminate in a physical altercation, but their teammates intervene timely. The team endures a gamut of rigorous training modules, including tactics like infiltration, mastering armor and weaponry, physical endurance, and precision shooting. Although they encounter challenges initially, they gradually exhibit commendable proficiency. In a sharpshooting drill employing playing cards as targets, the team's exceptional accuracy is evident. They also practice collaborative exercises in vacant structures, emphasizing on hostage rescues to avoid potential casualties. Days later, the climax of their training arrives. A simulated hostage rescue operation aboard an aircraft, seized by terrorists portrayed by their police colleagues equipped with paintball guns. The mission stipulates the neutralization of all mock terrorists within an 8-minute time frame. Scrutinizing the aircraft's blueprints, Jim identifies an unconventional entry point: a compact elevator shaft designed for food trays. While it's too restricted for most, it's an ideal fit for Chris. Coordinating their plan, the team strategically positions their vehicle beneath the aircraft, initiating an entry point, while another member scales the exterior for a potential window entry. As Chris maneuvers through the elevator shaft, the remainder locate an entrance hatch and promptly identify a potential trap, which they swiftly neutralize. With synchronization, they initiate their assault simultaneously. Diversely distributed within the aircraft, they efficiently neutralize all the mock terrorists, ensuring the safety of all hostages. However, TJ sustains an injury during the exercise that, if real, could have been lethal. To Fuller's chagrin, not only does the team pass the test, but they also establish a new benchmark for the course. During the evening, the team decides to unwind, congregating at a cafe owned by the father of Deke. Post a few delightful hours of dining and camaraderie, the majority of the team disperses. However, Chris and Jim opt for another round of drinks at Jim's preferred pub. Their evening takes a slight detour with an unexpected appearance from Brian, who engages in a tense exchange with Jim. Eventually, Brian departs, but not before impulsively smashing a framed picture of him and Jim. Subsequently, a somewhat inebriated Jim makes an advance towards Chris, which she gracefully declines. Instead, she extends an invitation to Jim for her daughter's upcoming birthday celebration. Simultaneously, Alex attempts to procure legal counsel, but to no avail. Consequently, he finds himself scheduled for a transfer. On the following day, each team member indulges in personal activities on their day off. TJ goes on a romantic outing, Hondo and Velasquez opt for a golfing session, Deke allocates time for his children, Michael enjoys a relaxed day with his spouse, and Jim graces Chris's daughter's birthday bash, where he becomes the kid's favorite with his water rifle antics. Their leisurely activities are abruptly halted by an emergent situation. A distressed individual, barricading himself in his residence, is sporadically discharging a shotgun through a window, claiming that all entry points are rigged with explosives. Skeptical, yet not wanting to risk potential casualties, Velasquez treads cautiously. Spotting an opportunity, Jim suggests deploying his key to the city invention. The device proves its mettle, swiftly creating an opening in the dwelling, allowing for the quick neutralization of the assailant. The plot thickens at the sheriff's office, where new revelations about Alex's identity emerge. This intel is swiftly communicated to Velasquez, who commissions Hondo's squad to oversee the transport of Alex. However, Alex's accomplices, privy to this relocation, hatch a plan. Posing as law enforcement officers, using a purloined police vehicle, they intercept the transport bus, neutralizing the onboard deputies and facilitating Alex's escape. As they attempt to flee the scene, Hondo's unit arrives, barricading their exit. What ensues is a fierce exchange of gunfire. The chaos culminates with Hondo's team neutralizing the imposters and thwarting Alex's escape attempt, leading to his recapture. Subsequent discoveries highlight Alex's global infamy, as he's wanted across multiple nations for heinous crimes, spanning from homicide to trafficking. Media interest around the case intensifies. Seizing an opportunity during a brief media interaction, Alex audaciously offers a $100 million bounty to anyone capable of orchestrating his escape from incarceration. Every television station fervently broadcasts Alex's audacious bounty proposition, underscoring his ample financial capability to honor such a pledge. This inevitably garners the focus of every road element within Los Angeles, much to the chagrin of Hondo's unit, realizing the heightened complexity this adds to their assignment. Subsequently, the SWAT team, with Alex in tow, ascend to the rooftop, strategizing an aerial extraction via helicopter. However, just as the helicopter is approaching, it's struck by bullets from a concealed sniper. Losing stability, the helicopter plummets onto the street below, resulting in a cataclysmic explosion. Regrouping quickly, the team hustles Alex back indoors, devising an alternate escape strategy through a motorcade formation. As they mobilize, a myriad of frenzied individuals, drawn by the allure of Alex's reward, throng around them. Their progression is momentarily stymied by an ostensibly homeless individual ambling across their path. This delay is soon unmasked as a premeditated ambush, with gangs launching a multi-pronged assault, employing vehicles, firearms, and smoke grenades. The onslaught claims the life of a motorcycle cop and injures 2 other officers. In the midst of this chaos, when the assailants attempt to seize Alex, they're met with a mere decoy doll. Simultaneously, the real Alex is clandestinely transported through a concealed subterranean route towards discrete vehicles positioned blocks away from the main scene, all under the vigilant aerial supervision of Velasquez. For the initial part of their escape, Hondo's plan unfolds seamlessly, despite Alex's incessant provocations and bribe attempts. However, upon reaching a security checkpoint, TJ halts the vehicle, betraying his team by siding with Alex's tempting proposition. To further the shock, Brian emerges, incapacitating Michael, and unveils himself as the orchestrator of Alex's escape plot. Post-subduing Jim and joining forces with TJ, Brian escapes with Alex into the subway system. Swiftly, the remaining team members converge on Jim's location, facilitating his release and summoning medical assistance for Michael. Opting for a divided approach, Hondo and Jim give chase in one direction, while Deke and Chris target a subsequent subway station. Unfortunately, Hondo and Jim's pursuit hits a snag as they miss the departing train. In another twist, Deke and Chris convey that the anticipated train never arrived at its designated station. Both factions converge and locate the train, stranded midway in the tunnel. Upon inspection, they find it deserted, save for the traumatized passengers, with Brian and his crew having vanished. A lead from the train operator points them towards a storm drain. Venturing into it inadvertently disrupts their communication link with the police network. Upon learning of TG's treachery and Brian's complicity, Fuller becomes suspicious of the entire SWAT team's potential involvement in Alex's liberation, particularly as communication with them has ceased. Fuller's discovery of an unofficially activated runway at Hawthorne Airport leads him to deduce that Brian might be heading there. Consequently, he mobilizes all available law enforcement units in that direction. Simultaneously, Hondo's team pursues the culprits through sewer tunnels, even navigating through swarms of bats. Brian, anticipating their pursuit, rigs a trap with a claymore mine and smoke grenades, an action that TG visibly disapproves of. Undeterred by the smoke, Hondo's team persists. Just as Deke is about to set off the trap, Jim's swift intervention saves the day. While Jim is busy neutralizing the claymore, Brian's faction advances, locking a substantial gate behind them. Upon reaching this barrier, Jim ingeniously uses the earlier claymore to blast through it. Regaining communication capabilities, Hondo briefs Fuller about their situation and requests vehicular assistance. However, given Fuller's eroded trust, he instructs Hondo's team to abort the mission. Ignoring the directive, Hondo's team commandeers a passing limousine. As they make their escape, Chris spots a jet flying at a conspicuously low altitude over the city, leading the team to infer that this jet is Brian's escape plan, and the airport was merely a diversion. The team trails the jet, which is descending onto the 6th Street Bridge. Upon landing, Brian and his crew apprehend the unsuspecting jet owners, converting them into hostages. They hurriedly board the plane, intending to flee. Hondo's team, arriving on the scene in the limousine, faces gunfire from 2 adversaries. Unflinchingly, Hondo steers through the hostile roadblock. In a desperate bid to halt the plane, officers unleash a barrage of bullets. Hondo, spotting an opportunity, rams the plane's landing gear, thwarting its takeoff and causing a crash. A fierce gunfight erupts between SWAT and Brian's associates, during which Chris sustains a shoulder injury. Alex attempts to flee but is swiftly apprehended by Deke. Brian, using a hostage as a human shield, manages to escape the scene by rappelling off the bridge, with Jim hot on his trail. In another segment of the bridge, Hondo encounters an injured TJ. Expressing remorse for his actions and inquiring about Michael's condition, TJ learns from Hondo that Michael is on the mend. Overwhelmed by guilt, TJ tragically ends his own life. Back to Jim, he rappels down from the bridge to and lands on a train yard, where Brian takes him by surprise and stabs his hand before running away. Jim goes after him, and after dodging a few moving trains, he tackles Brian to start a hand-to-hand fight. They exchange a bunch of hits on top of the rails, and when a train suddenly approaches, Jim kicks Brian's head into its path, killing him instantly. After Jim rejoins his team on the bridge, Fuller arrives and congratulates everyone for their excellent work, but he also points out that the job isn't finished yet. Alex is still in their custody and needs to be transferred to a federal prison, so the team takes a SWAT truck to deliver Alex to the authorities. Sometime later, after successfully delivering Alex, a report of a robbery in progress comes onto the police band. Hondo points out that their shift has technically been over for 12 hours, but the tired team agrees to head out to their next mission anyway. If you enjoyed this video, don't be shy to hit the like button, and if you disliked it, hit the dislike button twice, just to be sure. It would be best if you watched the whole movie. Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe for more videos like this.